Hey guys, so I recently made a video about my tournament class cannon strategy and made a pretty clear walkthrough how do I do it. Now I'm gonna talk about what are the future changes that I'm planning to do and in which ways do I plan to develop my tower going onward. I think it was about a week ago, 2 or 3 tournaments ago, when I did make that video, and one change has happened since then. If we look into the modules, this Being Annihilator thing got leveled up, and previously we were using our ancestral or our legendary Astral Deliverance in our tournaments, but ever since I unlocked the mythic Being Annihilator, I tried to switch out for this, and it kind of revealed a potential future strategy for me. Now, call me crazy maybe, but I started getting maybe a little bit more belief into bullet damage a little bit. And here's why. Because when I equipped my Being Annihilator, even though my Chain Lightning is very, very well developed, going into a tournament with my mythic Being Annihilator, when I look at the damage that I'm doing to the boss at the later waves where it matters, bullet damage actually did play some part in that. Though it was insignificant, but that is because I have not invested into it heavily. So I just started thinking that what if I put some deliberate effort into building up my bullet damage, and the purpose is not for bullet damage to be my main damage source, but if bullet damage could take down like maybe 20, 15, 25% of the boss's health, that is a very significant damage increase. And how far it's currently is that the Being Annihilator maybe does like 3 or 4% of boss's health damage in the later waves, which is not significant. However, this is because I have not invested into some of the specific labs and stats that contribute towards this. So one of the ideas was, first of all, if we go to the labs, and the Being Annihilator is critical chance dependent, the super critical dependent, which it's right about here. So it gives guaranteed super criticals once you do one super critical hit, and that makes the super crit multiplier and super crit chance labs more powerful. Because usually when we're talking about damage labs and their priority and importance and impact, the super crit ones are usually a very low priority because they don't give you that much benefit in the absolute damage, and they get pretty long pretty fast. So they're among the lower tier labs when it comes to damage labs. However, for the Being Annihilator thing, I believe that their importance raises. So what I'm doing currently is just, I'm gonna do some super crit mult. I'm doing a little bit super crit chance and damage per meter, which is more bullet damage specific, because my regular damage is already 53, my crit factor is 58, so those levels come to me a little bit slower. But if I go for damage per meter, it's 35, so there is some easy gains for bullet damage right there. So just maybe if I put some focus on these labs, I can get that 3% boss damage maybe to 4 or 4.5. Now that is still insignificant, but there's another avenue in which I can boost my bullet damage, and that would be the Rend armor. I have never ever unlocked the Rend armor just because my economy is fairly low at this point, and it's a very expensive upgrade for where my tower is currently at. I'm making about 100 billion per farming run or 200 billions per day, So that would be 2.5 full days of farming. So that's why I haven't unlocked the Rend armor. Plus, since I'm Chain Lightning or ultimate weapon damage based anyway, it wouldn't benefit me anyway. But now I've come to believe that what if I did it? What if I unlock this? And what if that makes my bullet damage, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times more powerful on average? That would get that 4% up to like, I don't know, 15% potentially. So then I could do 15% of damage to the boss from bullet damage. And honestly, this is a very reasonable increase already. That's a good percentage that may allow me to get several bosses further in the tournament. And then there's another avenue. I can pop some cheap levels into the Rend armor workshop, the enhancement thing. So that's a way I can increase. So I think I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see how it's gonna go. And hey, no harm, no foul. If I get some labs done in just a week or 2, it's not that much lab time lost. If it ends up being useful, I can always get the coins back if I do a respec. So yeah, I will find if this strategy is gonna work. Now, if my Astral Deliverance would be mythic, I would reconsider this. I would not probably lean towards the Being Annihilator, but just because of this being the first mythic cannon module that I have, that's why I switched to Being Annihilator. It has better subs, and better subs also boost my Chain Lightning damage further. So yeah, usually people are talking only about Astral Deliverance and the death penalty when it comes to cannon modules. And I believe that is the case in the end game for sure, where bullet damage becomes more and more, less and less important. But maybe at this stage of the game, maybe it has a very, very niche place where it might work. If this is the strongest module that you have and you put some deliberate effort into it. I guess we'll see. Now, what else are we looking forward to? So as you see, I have 600 billion coins at hand, which is about like, it's been like 4 or 5 days since I spent any coins. That's a lot of farming for me. And what are we getting our coins for is actually not the Rend armor just yet. We want to get the coins for, where's the, we want to get the coins for this thing, the energy shield extra hit, because usually in the tournaments at later waves it's kind of a lot RNG based, whether I take some random hits or I don't take some random hits, and that would just make maybe those last 50 something levels in my tournaments much more reliable. I have one more hit that I can take without getting killed or without triggering my second wind. So I think this is gonna be a really good help for me, even though or despite the large investment of coins into this. And once I started thinking that this might be an option for me, I started thinking, hey, maybe there is another way I can kind of gain an extra hit, and that would be my health. Because right now the way I'm doing tournaments is I'm making about 900, maybe 1000 waves in champion, and I could probably get one hit by the enemies already at 200 waves with my health. However, I have never ever really tried to have higher health in tournaments, and if I look at how much health do I have in my farming runs at the end waves, of course I have the perks, but I also have the minus 70% health perk. So I think it could be possible that if I go to my health and get this thing up to like 5000, which is reasonable because my damage is up to 5000, and that would be maybe like 2 weeks of farming for coins. Maybe that's enough so that I can get my health maxed in my farming run and therefore at wave 900 or 1000, where I usually start dying, maybe I can take one extra hit. So it would be basically like another energy shield. It should be just about sufficient so that I can take one more hit without dying. I think so. It's an avenue I think about exploring. So there are a lot of potential strategies that I'm not committed to yet, but I think they're worth exploring, because most of the easy gains for my tournament in terms of damage have been gained at this point, and some of the bigger or the breakthrough upgrades are yet to come. This is not like a breakthrough upgrade, this is one of those small increments, and it's an incremental game as we know it. Now, what else are we thinking about? Let's go to the ultimate weapons. What are we working on in the ultimate weapons? Currently we're working on the poison swamp, and my duration is 1 minute, my cooldown is 130. I want to get it into a permanent poison swamp. This is the number one thing that we're working on. My damage is very, very good in tournaments usually. What I'm dying for usually is when the boss comes between two shockwaves so that the anti-cube portal does not hit it. I want to make boss's travel time a little bit longer so that it has a higher probability of getting hit by shockwave. And how can we do that? There are several ways. One of the ways is getting Poison Swamp permanent, which does two things. First of all, it gives you the stun chance, which I am working on permanently in lab slot number 2. And secondly, it also provides a little bit slow, 25%. Yes, it's not that much, but it's something, because maybe it makes the boss travel time longer by 1 second, and sometimes that 1 second is exactly what I need to hit the boss with the shockwave. And once it's hit with the shockwave, I don't have a problem killing it, because my anti-cube portal is really good. It provides a 20x damage boost. And how else can I make sure that every boss gets hit by the shockwave? How can I gain a few more seconds of boss travel time is my general line of thought. And that is the inner landmines. I don't have the inner landmines yet, but call me crazy, but I think this is my next ultimate weapon, if that's the choice, of course. Everybody would say that I need the black hole, but I'm kind of like I'm trying to run the fight against the economy meta and see how far it's gonna take me. At one point further in the future, of course, I'm gonna have to switch to going heavy on economy, but I don't think this is the point yet where I need to do that. And inner landmines, the way it works with a stun effect, should be exactly sufficient so that I gain those couple of seconds that allow me to hit the boss with a shockwave every time, and that is going to allow me to get reasonably further in the tournament. So that is one of the breakthrough upgrades, I assume. And how inner landmines and poison swamp are going to work together is, well, inner landmines has a cooldown, right? So if some of the mines have been exploded, it leaves up openings. What the poison swamp does, if I am able to max the poison swamp stun chance lab, it's gonna go all the way up to 80%, which means with permanent poison swamp, every 5th enemy is not gonna get stunned, and every 5th enemy is gonna make it to my inner landmines. So that is 5 times less enemies triggering inner landmines. Therefore, inner landmines become more reliable, because you don't need a really, really small cooldown for the inner landmines in that case. So yeah, that covers my my developments in crowd control for the future. Further down in the future, Chronofield is gonna be a big help. I don't think I'm quite there yet, because it requires a very, very large investment for it to become reliable, both in stones and labs. and currently getting the Poison Swamp permanent is a smaller investment, and getting the inner landmines is a smaller investment. So I just want to get those two things as my next two steps in my tournament. At the same time, I'm of course working on just regular damage stuff. I will probably switch out the super crit chance and multiplier after a week or so because they do get very long. Then I'll put back something like damage or super crit factor, sometimes maybe pop a few levels of range in there. So I keep working on my damage, enemy level skips, and occasionally just some of these other smaller ones. I'll pop a level or two in there. So I guess this is my future plans for the development of Tower. And another potential breakthrough could be if I finally gotten my Dimension Core better than Epic. Epic Dimension Core has already carried me to like over 1000 in Champion, which is really good. But if I have double stack, that's like double damage, and that's gonna give me better subs, and that's gonna give me more ultimate weapon damage multiplier. So basically, just if I got one more Dimension Core, it would more than double my damage output. So that could be a potential breakthrough upgrade as well. But this is RNG based. All of these other upgrades that I just discussed are something that I can do about, while the RNG based thing is just that just keep doing it until you get it, and you don't know when do you get it. But happily, my anti-cube portal has gotten a bunch of copies. I have 7 copies, so this is 1 copy away from becoming ancestral, which also with ancestral shockwave frequency becomes more reliable because I'm getting 1 more second off of the time between the shockwaves. So that will definitely help me. I think this pretty much covers my future plans for my tower development in terms of tournaments. If you have any suggestions, I would be happy to hear them. Leave them down in the comments. If you think that the thought of getting some bullet damage out of my Being Annihilator is nonsense, I would be happy to hear that as well. Maybe it is a waste of my efforts, maybe not. But you can leave a like, you can subscribe, and see you in the next video.